If you have parents being fed a steady diet of depressing statistics and hopelessness, that's not going to get you anywhere. Today I am going to be talking about autism, and specifically the month of April, autism awareness, autism acceptance, autism education, how we talk about autism, and why it matters. Every year, April rolls around, autism awareness comes out intensely. This is my first April where I have known that I'm autistic. If you're new here, my name is Cammie, I'm 37 years old, and I was diagnosed as being autistic about, I don't even know if it was 2 months ago now. But I suspected it for a long time. I just finally got the courage up to ask my doctor, and then the process went really way faster than I ever expected it to. My husband was just diagnosed, actually, as I make this video, yesterday. He is also autistic. He was pretty confident about the results. I had no idea. We had thought for basically the entire time that I've known him that he had ADHD, and that's basically what I thought he had. So while I wasn't totally surprised by his answer, I probably was a little bit. A year ago I definitely would have been. Although when I read the DSM-5 description of autism, I was kind of like, yeah, that sounds like both of us. And we also have at least 4 children who are autistic. They have all been diagnosed, and our 5 is waiting for this whole pandemic to be over to have his evaluation too. And then we'll see. So we are a pretty neurodiverse family. I want to start by talking about autism awareness. April is the month for autism awareness. I don't love the term autism awareness, but I don't really hate it either. I guess I just kind of feel neutral about it. And that's probably because I know that most people have good intentions when they talk about autism awareness. I know from the topic coming up in groups that I'm in lately that a lot of people really dislike it, but when I hear people use it, I usually just try to give them the benefit of the doubt. I feel like at this point though, we're pretty aware of autism. Whether or not that's an accurate awareness is something that remains to be seen, but it's the kind of awareness that a lot of the major groups have been pushing, and that is part of what I want to talk about today. For at least a decade, awareness of autism has been pushed, and it's been pushed pretty hard, and that's why a lot of autistic adults really feel like it is time for, at the very least, acceptance. Because a lot of people seem to be aware of autism, but you can apparently be aware of something while a pretty huge stigma still remains. And I want to start by offering my perspective as a parent who had just that sort of awareness campaign, what was in magazines and the media, sort of knowledge about autism that's put out there by those big autism organizations. That's pretty much what I knew. Having that sort of knowledge in my head, and then getting a diagnosis for my 3-year-old and hearing that she was autistic. I wouldn't say I was devastated, but it was really upsetting. It was upsetting because everything that I'd heard about autism, everything that I was aware of from all of these awareness campaigns, that if your child is diagnosed, that it's a really sad thing, that it's a hopeful thing, that we should be searching for a cure, that you should be doing whatever you can to cure your child or recover your child. And that's the sort of mentality that has been put out there by a lot of people who gather together under the banner of awareness. And honestly, there's so much out there that comes at parents from that point of view that I think it can be very hard for them not to get sucked in. And I think it can be equally tempting because the toddler years are hard no matter what. You have a lot of kids now that get diagnosed when they're younger, toddler, preschool years. Those are hard years with neurotypical kids. They are hard years with kids that are going to be having delayed milestones and different milestones and communication difficulties. If you have parents being fed a steady diet of depressing statistics and hopelessness, that's not going to get you anywhere good. And that's exactly what needs to stop. Being autistic isn't a death sentence. There's a lot of us out here, and there's a lot of us who actually really like who we are. There was a man in my comment box who came and started arguing with me a month or 2 ago, and he kept saying that there was no autistic person in the world who wouldn't change themselves and become neurotypical if they could. And that's simply not true. There are a lot of us who, while recognizing that this is a disability, actually like the way that our brains function. This is a disability, but it's also a different operating system, and I like the way that my brain works. There are disadvantages, but there are also advantages, and it literally makes me the person that I am. I don't want to be someone else. I like who I am. Even if it means taking what's not so great, the disability part, to get the part that is good. And that brings me to the sort of awareness that wouldn't bother me at all. If there was awareness out there of autism as a different way of being, of autism as a different way of thinking and not a tragedy, that would be something I could get on board with. We need to educate parents on ways to help communicate with their children so that they can grow up to have full lives, so they're not stressed out, so that they're not taught that their existence is a tragedy, because it's not. Stressed out parents who are being fed hopelessness aren't going to be parents that can help their children reach their full potential. It will hurt your relationship with your children if you constantly blame every problem that you have and every problem that your family has on autism, because autism is a part of who your child is. It is a part of our identity. I know that that pisses a lot of people off. That is part of why people don't like identity first language. My child is more than just their autism. Yes, there are a lot of things, but their autism is also a part of their identity, and the way that we think is a big part of who we are. If someone said, hey, it's okay, you're more than your neurotypicality, would that seem weird to you? You're more than just the way you think, honey. It's okay. Don't let it get to you. You're more than just thinking that way normally, like everybody else. Don't let it get you down. That would seem a little bit weird to you, wouldn't it? Don't worry, I won't judge you by the way you think. It would be wildly offensive. Don't worry, I won't judge you by the lens through which you see the world. Just because you see the world normally like everybody else, I won't judge you by that. That is wildly offensive. And when you try to strip someone of their autism, that's exactly what you're doing. It's not a tragedy. If you want to raise awareness, that's what we need to be raising awareness of. Awareness that the last decade's Light It Up Blue campaigns have been a waste and a failure. We need to teach autistic children the value that they have and help them recognize that value regardless of what they're going to be capable of in the future. Whether they're entirely nonverbal, whether they're at the top of their class, or whether they are somewhere in between. Awareness isn't always a bad thing, but acting like our existence is a tragedy is shameful. That is it for today. If you like this video, we'd love it if you'd give it a thumbs up. And if you're interested in all things autism, we'd love it if you'd hit subscribe. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.